Lab. We
Thank
are
you.
a
I,
24/7 channel here on Twitch focused around kind of sharing all of our knowledge together and trying to educate each other and network together and get ourselves into the industry somehow. So some people are either getting in their own extractions, and we're all over the world too. It's not just Canada. There's Americans here. There's people from Europe, from South Africa, literally all over the world.
awesome.
So we started doing this in this year. We've been doing more interviews, and we're trying to get well, I'm trying to get interviews that are like questions more or less that people aren't asking, trying to jam pack as much information into the most laid back interview as possible. And welcome, you're here. This is what it
Yeah,
is.
thank you
Um,
very much. I'm happy to be invited as well, and looking forward to chatting with you and everyone on this live stream as well.
awesome, 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 awesome.
I
So,
like your shirt too, the pinners.
yes, I having to rep the homies here. John might be in chat actually if he's still here.
Right
Uh,
on. Yeah,
uh,
pinners are sweet.
uh, we'll actually get right into it. The first question
Sure.
is who are you and what do you do? Why are you here right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as just so you know, it is saying you are off, but we can understand. So I'm not sure if that changes
Yeah,
anything you want to do or
no,
not, but
that's fine. That's fine. It's if there was a way that I could make it so only your video was here, it would be the best. Like if I was able to make you full screen and me not here.
I think you can pin me if I
Yeah.
remember correctly.
Oh, there we
I
go.
don't
Yeah, 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 yeah. Perfect. You
I
just
don't
you
I
just
don't
fixed everything. We're good.
I don't use Zoom as much. Okay.
We're
So
good.
High North Labs is a analytical testing lab that specializes in only cannabis. So we test cannabis for quality, for contaminants, as in for say, THC and CBD, which here in Canada you have to put on the label, the product label. We also test for additional cannabinoids, terpenes, moisture, water activity, foreign matter, and then all kinds of other contaminant testing like pesticides, heavy metals, residual solvents, um, microbials, and we got a few other things that we're working on as well, like plant pathogen testing, hop latent testing. That's a big one right now
Mm-hmm.
too.
Yep.
There seems to be a lot of that going around. So there's a lot of people that are trying to kind of manage any outbreaks if they do. It's almost in a sense similar to COVID, like a
Mm-hmm.
pandemic in that sense, where people are trying to figure out what to do, how to prevent spreading it, how to treat it, how to get rid of it, and that kind of stuff, right? So, with regards to that, it's probably one of the more popular issues some of the producers are having right now.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so since we're only cannabis, we specialize in that. And me, for example, I've been growing for 23 years and making hash for 23 years.
Damn. Okay.
I'm not I'm not a scientist. I'm actually an electrician. But yeah, my partner John, he came up with this idea. He started High North in 2016, High North Inc. And and he was helping rate products in the legacy market.
Okay.
So a lot of dispensaries and stuff like that, he would take it, test it for quality and microbials, and help build an algorithm to score the product as well. So kind of like
Yep.
a Robert Part, like at the LCBO or something, when you go to buy a bottle of wine and you got the score there, and you're like, oh, should I go with the 92 or the
Yeah.
90 or whatever, right? So we did that with weed, and then as it started to get a little bit more popular, he brought me along, and then with regards, then we founded High North Laboratories, got the licensing, purchased this building that we're here in Woodbridge, just on the north side of Steeles Avenue, so right on the north side of Toronto. And then yeah, we got licensed August 2019, and we just built an amazing science team. We got such a great science team, and a lot of scientists in the lab industry, I should say, they're not cannabis experienced, we'll
Yep.
say,
Yep.
or they may see it as just another matrix like dirt or a cloth or a water bottle or something, right,
Mm-hmm.
that they have to test for whatever. So we provide cannabis, John and I provide cannabis education to our employees so that they understand, you know, why it's so important, why it's so delicate to
Yeah.
handle, you know, like what you don't want the trichomes and all this kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff, right? And why are we testing the stem when it comes to cannabis quality, right? For an inhalable dried flower. There
Mm-hmm.
would be no reason to do that.
Yeah, interesting.
So
Yeah.
right, and little things like that we help provide for our employees, and get feedback from them too on certain things when it comes to the science, because we are not science experts, right? We rely on our amazing science team with that. We just help with the cannabis specific part of it, and what our clients be looking for, what they did in the process, how they got it there, for example, like for say diamonds, you know, what it took to get a dried flower or fresh flower for that matter into diamonds. So that's kind of where we're at with as far as what High North Labs
Yeah,
does.
exactly. So you're getting right into it, and that's why you guys are considered the best, eh?
Thank you. Yeah, well, we go with the state of the art equipment, an amazing science team, and we work together as a team with our scientists, with John and I, and then also with our clients,
Yeah.
right? And helping them figure out any specific things that they need as a cannabis producer, because a lot of the other labs are environmental, water labs, you know, food labs, and then they end cannabis,
Yeah.
right? Where we're only cannabis.
Yeah.
So that's our complete focus here, and that's what we specialize in. And I think that's important in a cannabis
Hmm.
laboratory.
Yeah. What are you guys doing more of? Just straight flour or more concentrates or extracts?
Dried flower testing is probably about 4 to 1, I would
Okay.
say. Keep in mind that a lot of the regulations that our clients are working with, you must test the flower first,
Yeah.
at
Okay.
least for pesticides,
Okay.
right? And then a lot of times too, they want to test for quality, right? What are we going to be working with? What am I expecting? What's the terpene profile, right? And then we can work with them and let them know, you know, these ones we feel are more volatile, you know, different profiles. So depending on your process, which ones you may be losing more, and kind of like the extracted value is where we're getting to,
Yeah.
right?
Totally. Totally. Are you guys thinking about doing any genetic testing for strains?
We do. We do have some genetic testing, so we can test. You know, if this just with a hole punch in the leaf, we
Mm-hmm.
can test if it's going to be predominantly a THC predominant, powdery mildew, for example.
Okay. Interesting.
Um, we were the first lab in the world. Second one was in California to get Purity IQ CAPS certified, and we helped. I was on the board with that too. We helped them develop that program, Cannabis Authenticity Purity Standards. So it's
Cool.
not just for testing, but it's for
Yeah.
production, producing, or sorry, processing, all that kind of stuff. And then with that, they have an NMR machine, a nuclear magnetic resonance machine, which is like some big fancy machine. You got to climb a ladder, like that's hooked like stairs, I mean, that are hooked to it to put
Wow.
the sample in at the
Yeah.
top. The thing looks almost like a rocket. And it's at the university in Guelph. So we can process the samples here for the DNA extraction, and then they do the test at their facility. And it's around, don't quote me, but it's just under 600. It's like 587 metabolites or something like that they are testing for. So like 100 plus terpenes, 100 plus cannabis, all types of things, and then come up with the genetic fingerprint of your specific cultivar, and then you can actually use that for IP or for exporting purposes too.
Okay. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Have you
So
guys?
more breeders are interested in that.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. Have you guys helped the government with any testing procedures or anything or policies to help them enforce things or help them like change a
Um,
standard?
Somewhat. That's more what I'm working on now.
Okay.
I'm working on a couple articles, and one of them would be on where I think and how I think cannabis testing should be done.
Okay.
Um, some people have that idea that, oh, there should be one test method and then every lab uses that. Unfortunately, that's a little bit difficult because everyone's equipment is different. There's parts like columns, for example, and instrument settings and parameters. The lab environment, all that kind of stuff is different. Now, what I think they could standardize is the specifications, though. Right now, Health Canada has left it up, put the onus onto the producer or the license holder, I'll say,
Hmm.
and they have to come up with their specifications. The only thing Health Canada said is here's 96 pesticides, here's the limits. Other than that, we want you to test everything in Schedule B of the Food and Drug Act. Or I mean,
Oh,
sorry, everything like for microbials, for
yeah,
example, heavy metals.
yeah.
So you have to pick one of the 8 approved pharmacopoeias. Japan, Australia, USP, and European are the 2 most common. And
Mhm.
then you got to go in these old, outdated pharmacopoeias that have no mention of cannabis
Yeah.
and try and pick one, what, teas, herbal, pharmaceuticals, non-sterile, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, I just, so many people, maybe that they've been growing for X amount of years and then they
Mhm.
get in the legal market, they don't know about pharmacopoeias, or I didn't know about pharmacopoeias.
Yeah.
And then they have to navigate it. So we definitely help our clients with that.
Yeah.
But Health Canada, in my opinion, should say, this is the list of tests you need to do. This is the limits that you have to work within.
Yep.
And then that's it, right? I think that 100% could and should be standardized.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. I like that.
So I mean, right now we're testing certain things like dried flower. You got to test for salmonella. Why? There's never been salmonella in dried flower.
But you still have to spend the money to test it because it's part of the food,
And
right? Where it can happen in foods and stuff.
and food for sure. We're talking edibles. Yeah, absolutely. There's specific microbials that we want to test for food, but for dried flower, come on, salmonella. And that is the driver of the sample size too, because the pharmacopoeia say salmonella must be absent in 25 grams or absent in 10 grams. And then they have to send in a larger sample size. Dried
Mm.
flower, dollar per gram isn't as big a deal, but when it comes to concentrates, shatter, for example, you got to send 25 grams just for salmonella,
You have to send
right?
in 25 grams of shatter just to get it tested for that. Wow.
If you're going to use European
Yeah.
pharmacopoeia,
Oh, okay.
USP pharmacopoeia is 10. So, and then certain people use inhalation, which then finally you don't have to test for salmonella, but the majority still do. And that's where I think Health Canada really needs to say, here's the list and limits.
Yeah, totally, totally. No, that makes sense. That actually, a lot of that just bounced through a ton of my questions because I've heard about the different standards of the European and the American testing, and here in Canada it's a little bit different because you can get it through the UPC or UPS or is that the American standard?
USP,
Yeah,
United States Pharmacopoeia,
yeah.
which has never once mentioned cannabis, by the way, because
Okay.
it's still a federally illegal
Illegal in okay.
drug, right?
But you can
So
also do the European one here in Canada. And if you do the European one, does that allow you to then therefore ship your product out to Europe?
that would include different testing. The pesticide. So for Canada, there's 96 pesticides.
Okay.
For European, it's European Pharmacopoeia 2.8.13. It needs there's 69 pesticides that
Okay.
they're not all in the 96.
Yeah. Different
So if
range.
people, plus they require ash testing. So if which Health Canada does not. So if you are exporting to Europe, there's a little bit different test, not much though.
Okay.
And we are a DEL drug establishment licensed and GMP licensed lab too. So we can do all that. We do have some clients that export to Europe.
Very cool. Very cool. You did mention at the very beginning about the hop latent viroid. Are you seeing
Mhm.
that popular here in Canada now, or is it becoming a problem
Yes,
here? I know it started, I guess, in 2018 in the States, and it's made its way up this way. Or I guess I shouldn't say it started in 2018. I guess it was found, I guess,
discovered. Yeah,
discovered. And now, would you say it's a problem here, or would you say,
I feel that it is. I feel that it's going a little bit unchecked in certain things, and people are, their yield is decreasing, perhaps their total THC is decreasing, and they may think it's due to other factors or whatever
mhm,
because there's no, like sick looking plants, we'll say.
yeah,
But the one thing too is hop latent. It's latent, right? Sometimes it's dormant.
hmm,
So you could have it and not know, and you don't have any issues with cannabinoids, don't have any issue with yield, don't have any issue with sick looking plants, but you still have it.
yeah,
Some strain, like my key lime, for example, that one's one of my keepers. That thing, you can dump powdered mildew on it and it won't care. It won't show it. right? Like
Really?
it's a
Okay.
strong plant. Now, I'm not relating, not a parallel with hop latent. Hop latent is a little bit stronger, but yeah, sometimes you can have it and not know. And the
Hmm.
worst part of the most common place for spreading it is usually when with tools from cuttings and not sanitizing and all that kind of stuff properly.
Hmm.
But also, it could be from pests flying around from plant to plant, right? And
Makes
sometimes
sense.
you have beneficial pests
Hmm.
in your grow, like I prefer in mine. So yeah, it's a difficult one.
Yeah, I've
And
been
tissue
actually.
culture is a good way to get it cleaned up, but it's expensive and long, right? Time consuming.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And it's obviously something that a lot of home growers can't, or smaller growers can't really get their hands on, because it's something that you got to put a lot of resources and you got to put a lot of money into to get it correct, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, for
Uh,
sure. It's just kind of a specialized thing.
yeah. Speaking of bugs, what's the number one bug you guys usually see in the tests?
Uh, by like bug, you mean pest?
Yeah, past, yes.
We don't really see too many, right? Because we get the final products,
Okay.
the dried. Now we do check for foreign matter. We have seen bugs. We have seen, we have gotten outdoor crops, right, from clients,
Hmm.
and those ones definitely tend to have a couple little bit more pests, ladybug here or two there,
Hmm.
or something like that. But majority where we do not really see too many bugs here. The biggest thing for foreign matter that we may see is more like trellis, like plastic parts of trellis, of rubber, of
Okay.
nitrile gloves or whatever, right? And somehow someone didn't notice and it was on there or whatever. We tested for foreign matter and we go, oh, found
That
some
makes
plastic
sense.
bits or something like that, right?
Totally,
But
totally.
yeah, for us, we don't get to see the pest as much, which is better, of course. But
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Kind of staying on this topic, since WPM is such a concern here or problem here in Ontario, you have an outdoor plant, and even if you're like, oh yeah, it's really resilient to WPM, you put it outside, and it seems like sometimes it gets it and it climbs. With WPM, there's so many people. It's scary every time you mention it. Everyone's so worried about it. Do we have to be as worried as what it seems like we should be? Is it something that if there is a little bit of WPM in our plants, does bud washing work? What happens with that?
so from in my personal opinion, you don't have to worry about it as much if it's not like crazy taking over your plant. Some plants, like those pics of Canopy or whatever, whoever it was, or allegedly, I don't know if it was, but those ones were covered, right?
Hmm.
So it's one thing to have some spots on a couple leaves here and there. You get rid of those leaves and kind of manage it, or in LPs, and it's approved, right? I think you mentioned it, xerotol.
Yeah.
That's a pretty common one. There's other ones like Method One. Um,
So
I,
method
I think
one
it's
is okay to be
I,
used.
that I'm not 100% if it's Health Canada approved.
Okay.
I don't know that. I'm not sure. I've used some Method One
Hmm.
before on some of my plants, but typically with my genetics, as soon as I see them showing any PM, I get rid of them from my library.
Yeah.
I try and don't keep any of those, but sometimes, friends give me some cool cuts that I want to try out or whatever, right? And maybe they're better for indoor, but as you're talking about outdoor here in Southern Ontario or
Hmm.
in Ontario, it can be pretty bad. Even on my front lawn, I was on the grass. I was getting PM. So then I would have to specifically mow my back lawn first,
Hmm.
where the plants were. Then I'll go and mow my front
Oh
lawn,
wow.
right? Little things like that to try and, prevent the spread. But then I also, a bunch of neighbors I give plants to grow, and then they're not taking care of it the way they
Hmm.
probably should.
Yep.
And I'm looking and I can see the PM. I'm like, oh, geez, right? And it's like, 30 feet away from me or whatever, my property. I'm like, ah, I just want to get rid of that. But yeah, there definitely is some ways to mitigate it. I think
Hmm.
like xerotol. I think they spray it a few times, even upwards of a week or two before harvest.
Yep.
And that kind of helps maintain it. The one thing with that I've learned from our great science team is that powdery mildew is an obligate parasite, which means it only lives on a living organism, right? So when you
Okay.
harvest, that PM is now dying as the plant is drying, right? So it's not going to grow further, unlike say bud rot,
Yeah.
which can keep growing.
Can keep growing.
So
Okay.
so and then research that I've read online, nothing that I've done or anything has said that it's essentially pretty harmless to smoke that. Now, if I've got 2 jars here and one I can see powdery mildew, I'm not going to smoke it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm definitely not, saying go ahead and do that. But the research that other people have done online claim it's relatively okay.
Okay.
But I would always, if I could, not touch anything with PM.
Okay.
This is my opinion, anyways.
If have you seen anyone? Well, I guess you guys have seen it all. But if you were to take a plant that has a WPM on it, and you were to press that and then test that rosin, will that rosin show that it had WPM?
No, in my opinion and experience, it has not. And you're talking flower rosin,
Yeah,
even?
yeah.
Yeah, it has not. Essentially, from what my thought is on it, and I have not been able to prove this yet, but I do want to do some further experiments. It's because, I mean, if you look at the plant behind me here, right,
Mm-hmm.
and you see the trichomes, essentially we're squeezing the juices
Yeah.
out of those trichomes, right? And the PM is on the plant matter, it's on the leaf.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also there was someone, I don't know what it is, but someone told me there's something about the micron size and all that. A PM is a little bit bigger, and that's why it doesn't matter when you're washing it and all this kind of stuff. I don't know if that's true or not,
Yep.
but a friend has told me that before. So
I have heard that you can get special bags that are at a certain micron that are used to get rid of certain things like pests and funguses and stuff like that to try and get rid of them.
Yeah.
But no, interesting. That kind of moves into my next topic of outdoor, because I'm a big believer in fresh frozen outdoor. It's impossible to not be contaminated. So I'm always I don't understand, or I kind of do understand, but I guess I'm asking, once you've harvested your outdoor, you've froze it right in the field, which most people are doing now, caterpillars, bird poo, or whatever could have been on there. You try to get the WPM, you try to cut the bud rot off, but it's impossible to get it all, right? So now that it's frozen, you're now taking that frozen stuff, you are putting it directly into your wash cycle now, because you're not thawing any of it. You don't want to. So now it's thawing in your water, and it's not going to thaw to the point where it's breaking up and mushing out, because your water's supposed to still be below freezing. But you're usually going from -20 freezers to around -2 or something in your wash. And then you now have washed it. You've now made your hash, and then you've put it through your freeze dryer and you've pressed it. In which one of those steps there did you actually remove the caterpillar guts and the bud rot spores and all of that? Where did you remove all that?
I feel in the initial wash, in that
Yeah.
ice water wash. Yeah. From my experience and what I can see.
Yeah.
Now I haven't washed the dirtiest buds before, but
Yeah.
yes, 100% washed outdoor. I grow outdoor every year as well.
Mm-hmm.
A big fan of quality outdoor, actually. I know there's a lot of haters out there on quality outdoor. I'm not saying just outdoor, but quality outdoor. Like when you can give it that TLC, right,
Mm-hmm.
and take care of it. Not growing something in a cornfield that you come back in September. I'm not talking
Yeah.
that kind of outdoor, right? So yeah, good quality, and also the best test results when it comes to rosin is from outdoor. 100%.
I have heard of that. Outdoor seems to get the bigger trichomes, which are perfect for the extracts and stuff, and the indoor seems to get a little bit smaller trichomes, better for that combustion and flower.
Yeah. And even in the Solvent List games that we did a little while ago, right?
Yeah.
Where there was, I think the winner was Pineapple Reserve, then Steve Solvent List, and then Van Gyptian. The top two, first and second, both outdoor.
Yeah, and then the third wasn't even freeze dried. It was full
Yeah,
air
it was that
air
full
dry.
melt.
Yeah,
Yeah, from Van Gyptian.
In that competition, there was a guy named Wildwood.
Yep.
Wildwood Weed. What do you think about his?
His was great too, if I remember correctly. I could pull it up. I think I'm not mistaken, Wildwood might have had the highest THC.
He was the
I
one
could
that
be
his was the
wrong.
one that was a little bit. It was kind of like more of an orangey gold color compared to all the other colors. Everyone else's.
Okay. All right. Yeah. There was 17 of them, right? So
Yeah.
it's hard for me,
Yeah.
but I'm looking up the results.
Totally. Totally. No.
Do you remember what it was?
The only reason why I ask is he's a TVL member, and I know he's probably watching right now. So I was just.
Sweet.
Yeah. He started here in TVL, and I've watched him from day one.
Cable crasher.
Yeah. Cable crasher. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
He had the cable crasher. Yeah. His was awesome.
It was his.
I don't know what he placed. Yeah, you're right. I see it's got that reddish tinge to it more.
Yeah. He did want to do with the put in the his outdoor plants, but he went with his indoor. And I've seen him from day one when he got his press all the way to going from his flower rosin to his hash rosin, and now someone I look up to, and it's cool to have you guys on. He's the one who suggested to contact you guys to get you on here. So it's
awesome.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool community. It's a a positive experience.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I can pull up. I'm just trying to find his where is he? Wildwood Cable Crasher.
So
I could share his screen here if you wanted.
Sure. It was from a 65-watt LED grow tent. That's what it was from.
Wait, how come I can't? Where's my share button? Oh, share. What am I doing? I missed it.
I was gonna say.
Oh, you've disabled it.
Oh, I did. I was gonna say maybe I didn't click it. Okay, I didn't click it.
No worries. Whatever.
Because I guess when you started, it says like no video, and then it says share. So I didn't know if I clicked the share, it wouldn't allow you to do the normal video, so I disabled it.
No worries. As we're chatting here, I'll just pull it up on my phone and show you on my phone then.
Yeah, no, it was a cool experience because we were all rooting for him, and it was like sitting here watching from the sidelines because none of us has ever really seen a COA before. None of us has really seen it tested or got any of ours tested. So he was like the first guy out of our group, our community, to go out and get his tested, post it, and then we all got to be like, whoa, what? This is cool. We've never got to see our terpene, our THC. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, that's his, right? So it's got a little bit of the, so it's not blocking.
There you go. Yeah. Right. 71%, right?
71.485 total THC, 82.205 total cannabinoids, and 5.891 total terps.
Crazy.
I don't remember if I tried that one specifically or not. I know I didn't get a chance to try all 17 yet, but I do have all 17 because I did get a judge's pack too.
Oh, yeah?
Like an auction pack, actually, I should say.
Oh, an auction pack. Cool.
Yeah, I thought I was going to get the judge, but it turned out that it was just an auction pack. So.
It's cool that you guys did that, like bringing the Solvent List game and stuff out. Like it really brought a lot of people into the industry, I think, just from that quick Instagram.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. We're doing more as well. There's a couple other groups in the same group as well that are doing some additional ones. I think dried flower and traditional hash, I believe, are going to be the next two that we're working on with two different groups.
Very cool. So before I move into a little bit different, we've got I got one question just about bud rot. I know you mentioned it.
Yep.
Oh no, we only got 10 minutes left.
I have more time if you.
How do we add that?
I don't know how this works.
We'll just do it. We'll do an intermission and then I'll restart it.
Sure.
Okay, we'll do an intermission and I'll restart it. And let me shoot fine. Bud rot. When you've got bud rot on your plant, a lot right now in the industry, it seems like you can just cut it off and let it keep growing, and the spots that don't have any bud rot or any visible signs are fine to continue to grow and dry and consume. I tried that last year, and all the stuff that visibly didn't have any bud rot on it all started to grow bud rot in the drying room. So is that just doesn't work at all, and people that are doing that are consuming spores that they can't see, or
it's that part, like, are they consuming spores you can't see? It's very difficult for me to say yes or no on, because I can't see their sample, for example, and can't test their sample, so I don't think I can properly answer that part. But back to the bud rot, it's difficult. It spreads, right? It can like, even you gotta, in my opinion, like, take that little bit. I had bud rot last year for the first time in as long as I can remember, to be honest. have had issues with PM with certain strains, get rid of them. But bud rot is one thing I never really had an issue with, other than maybe like one tiny little spot. But I had three specific, yeah, three specifically that just were a big issue with me, and I really fought it and was doing my best with gloves, cut the little piece off, clean the tools, look for more, you know. And but by the time you see it too, it's already spread a little bit because it starts closer to the stem on the inside, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So unless you're constantly, you know, opening up all, but
All
you
your
know,
bud, exactly.
how many colas, you know, how many buds do you have just on one plant to be able to do that, right? And then you're, you know, I'm worried about messing with the
Messing with the
trichomes and
yeah,
then all,
exactly.
you know.
Okay.
So it is difficult in that sense. One thing I would say though is the second you see any, try and take more. Cut that whole cola if you can,
Don't just cut
right?
where you see it, cut below it, because you
Yeah,
know it's probably already in the branch inside the stems and
yeah.
stuff already there, right?
Cut that cola. Maybe you can salvage a little bit of that cola for whether it's fresh frozen or dry it. I don't know how premature or whatever it
Hmm.
would be at, you know, at that point. But last year was really shitty year for bud rot. I think the weather, the too
Yeah,
much rain.
yeah. At
I
the
have
very end
also,
season there, like 2 weeks at
yeah,
the end, just kept raining every single day, and it was windy rain, windy rain.
yeah, those three specific plants that I was talking about, they didn't start flowering till like September. I was getting so worried, like, what's going on
Wow.
here? You know what I mean? And then I was like, there's going to be bud rot. I don't know. Is it even going to be able to finish and all this kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
I did take her into, I think, November. I always take certain ones into at least Halloween, depending on the genetics, of
Yep.
course. But I'm not afraid of cold. Not afraid
Hmm.
of a frost or
Totally.
two, a light frost or two. I think that kind of almost really like gets the blood going a little bit. But that also is cultivar dependent. Like Island Pink Kush, could never grow that here. That thing would
Yeah.
be covered in PM and toast by September.
Really. Wow.
It's just there's certain ones that just they're very difficult and can only succeed in a clean, controlled environment
Yeah.
like an indoor grow.
That's what I try to do too. And a lot of people are always like, you're spraying so much. You're always cleaning. And I'm like, that's because I use I don't use Zero Toll. I use Sanidate, which is something that is easier to get on the
I
shelf
haven't
here.
tried that.
It's by the exact same company. It's
Yeah,
I think it's actually got the same ingredients in it, just a lower percentage, not as high. Because Zero Toll, I think you actually need a sprayer's license to get.
yeah, you
With
do.
Sanidate, you don't. And so it is the
Okay.
hydrogen peroxide. I think it's only 5% with the consumer grade, and it's only like the
Hmm.
1% of that acid in it. And I think Zero Toll is upwards of, you can get two different ones, consumer grade and commercial grade, which are two different
My my buddy
percentages.
gave it to me last year, and he had like gloves and all this stuff, and it's
Yeah,
like, be careful, it's gonna burn you if it touches your
yeah.
skin. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with this stuff then.
Yeah, I know the Sanidate doesn't do that, and what I use it for is clean my walls in between the rooms, and it just allows me to kind of, it is strong. It is the reason why you want to wear gloves is more of the smelling and like the fumes coming off. Mask it up, glasses on, and it's hydrogen peroxide. Wear gloves because it will give you those little white dots right on your skin from the hydrogen peroxide. But
Jesus.
I
All
do
right.
use hydrogen peroxide in my grow, just using 3% spray. I use that to clean my walls. I have used Method 1, and I do use it a lot, actually, which is why I was excited when you said Method 1. I was like, oh, Method 1, awesome. Because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
always pushing Method 1 and Lost Coast, which is like the Method 1 of the US, right?
Okay.
Um, but
Yeah,
yeah,
any time I can go with traditional, more organic type, I definitely will lean towards
yeah,
that.
100%.
Not with everything, but if I can, I lean towards that. Yeah.
Actually, going to my next question with organics, actually, I've got a couple for organics here.
Sure.
Have you noticed when testing organically grown versus synthetically grown any difference in the testing? Like one usually you're like
Terpenes are higher.
with organics?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It for a general rule of thumb, not every single sample, if it's salt or whatever, and versus organic, terps are always higher. Absolutely not. But generally speaking, more terps in organic, yes. I definitely can see that. Some of the the majority of the 4 to 5% terps plus
Yeah.
are from organic.
Awesome. Awesome.
Not all, but the majority, I would say.
I try to push organic growing. I think I would consider myself like a 99% organic because ProMix isn't registered as organic or whatever. So, and that's what I use. But I used to use salt based, and going from my salt based to the organics I'm using now, my rosin's better, my flour's better, my flavor's better. I totally agree.
I find flavor is also definitely there in organic versus other. Most of the time, again, not always, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's flavonoids, all the aldehydes, ketones, ester. I don't know what it is, because the terp profile may look fairly similar, right? If you have the same genetic, one organic, one not, and it's got the usual suspects in the top 10, for example, right? But it tastes something different.
Yeah.
So if the terps are the typical usual suspects, then what am I tasting differently? And I think it's flavonoid. And we're almost ready to begin our flavonoid testing. We've got the method developed. We just got to validate it, and then we'll start with flavonoid testing, and then we'll move on to aldehydes, ketones, and esters as well.
Very cool. Very cool.
Really want to figure out what you're tasting in some of these strains.
Yeah. What is the most popular terpene you guys come across?
That's a tough one. I don't know if there's one that's most popular, but I would say paraphylline, limonene, myrcene are probably the 3 most common. I don't know if there's one that's more common than the other.
Okay.
Those 3, but then in the more, what people tend to call, which I only agree when you're discussing how a plant is growing, but when people tend to call the more sativa, it's almost always terpinolene as the first terp.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, almost always.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, I see that we have a minute left here on this meeting.
Okay.
So we'll do like a quick swap to another one. I'll just start another one and send you the link. Hopefully I can do that.
Sure. There's been a lot of chat here that I haven't been able to really follow.
Oh, that's fine. I've been adding it into I've been adding it into my conversation. I try to make it like smooth, so I'm going back and forth, taking theirs, putting it into my list here, and trying to keep the conversation not so it's like, so question 1, question 2.
Yeah, right? No problem. Well, Curb Doggy Dog asked about pinene, and pinene, we can really track how a client's post-harvest handling is by looking at the pinene. When they mess up the dry, which there's a lot of that happening, when they mess up that, the pinene levels are low. They're ones that are very volatile, and that's how we track what they're doing in post-harvest handling is the comparative analysis on pinene.
Very cool.
Both pinenes.
Okay, so I'm gonna send you a new link, and we'll be right back, guys.
Okay, thanks.
Not bad, guys. I'm learning a ton. I'm learning a ton. Oh. Okay. Just a quick intermission, guys. I don't have Zoom Premium, so we're just going to have to deal with it, okay?
Hey, I'm back.
Oh, second. And...
Yeah, welcome back. Thank you. I see someone, where'd it go? Someone said something about organic flavor tastes better. I missed. So, there. Bon Bay Wilson. Organic flavor is stronger. I tend to agree.
They have a whole no-till setup inside of a 5x5 tent. Very nice
cool
setup. Yeah.
What cultivars?
They grow Damnesia, the Afghani, I think,
Ooh.
and there's one more and I forget. There's one more I forget.
So one thing I do see in say they have a 5x5 with multiple cultivars like that, including Amnesia, which is probably more terpinolene forward, and then the Afghani, which is probably more carphiline forward. There can be terpene drift. Like I really do see that.
Really?
Yeah, when some genetics will act differently when they're in the same room with other ones
Of the same or different terpenes?
of different,
Of different.
right? Yeah.
Interesting.
If it's all the same strain in the same 5x5, for example, then they're gonna, they're essentially a team. But when there's different ones in there, I do find that there is terpene drift and a little bit
Interesting.
different. If they grew that Afghani, for example, in that one 5x5 with the two other ones, which are completely different, one's like terpinolene forward, and then they grew the same cut in the 5x5 beside with just the Afghani,
Mm-hmm.
and I tested both those samples, the profile I feel would be slightly different.
Really? So it's better to
Yeah.
have individual spaces for your
Uh,
strains than
I,
in
I mean, it's
testing. If you want to try and bang the numbers, get the best as possible.
if you want that consistency, I
Yeah,
think,
okay.
yeah. But maybe they like, it's up to their preference, right? Maybe
Totally.
they like the way that Afghan is when it happens to be growing beside the Damnesia, for example, right?
100%.
That's the thing, right? And those, what's his name, Jameson Wellborn, he started that pot, and I like how he calls it fire is fire. In my opinion, if it's fire, if you think it's fire and it's
Yep.
fire, it's fire, right?
See, we have
Like,
a term here called dank mids. We're trying to
okay,
we're trying to remove that. Oh, that's mids. Everything here is dank mids. Dank
yeah,
mids in the chat, guys.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
everything we look at because it is true. You don't know. Like some people like that more airy stuff. Some people like that more dense stuff. Some people like their bud like this. Some people like it like this, right? So you saying something that's negative about it is probably, to me, it's totally misleading because everyone has their own end and adventure in
yeah.
cannabis, right? Everyone wants their own thing out of it.
Absolutely. As long as it's clean, contaminant free,
Exactly.
that kind of
Safe.
stuff,
Yeah.
the quality, sure, we can measure a bit of the, let's say analytically, right? Measure the quality in that sense. But my key lime that I mentioned, right? It tests 17 to 19% total THC every time,
Mhm.
but it is a slapper,
Yeah. See,
right?
those are the good
And
strains, the low THC, but they have like that full entourage effect with the terps and
yeah,
everything, and it's just a perfect day
it's
smoke.
it's an end of nighter, put it that way.
Yeah. Nice, nice, nice.
Yeah, good for
Awesome.
sleep.
Is there any at-home tests that are accurate enough for like home growers to use?
Well, I think first off, the accuracy in those at-home ones is nothing compared to what an analytical lab's capabilities can be.
Totally.
These are extremely expensive and advanced instruments with specific columns and instrument parameters. We've got very strict processes here when it comes to the mobile solutions, the standards that are used, like the reference standards, I mean, that are used, as in, this is pure THC, this is pure carphiline or whatever, right? And then we teach the instrument, it weighs the mass, it breaks it down to the ion, weighs the mass, goes,
Yeah.
yes, that is that, right? So where you don't have that in those at-home ones. The only thing that I could say with maybe those at-home ones, or hemp farmers in a big field or something like that, is at least you can trend. So if you test this and it says it's 21%, you test it tomorrow, 21, you test it the next harvest, 21, the next harvest, 21, and then something happens or whatever, like HLVD, whatever, you test it and it says 16. It's like, okay, what's changed? So I think
Yeah.
you can,
Okay.
I feel that you can trend with those, but
Okay.
I don't feel that those would be accurate enough for any kind of label claim.
Okay.
Obviously, I know I'm biased owning a lab here,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
that's my honest opinion on it.
No, it's similar to what I say. Like I think a lot of the ones where they're looking at it and taking pictures and using sensors is just obviously putting it up against a database of thousands and thousands of other photos that look similar to those. But my thing is that you can't tell THC by the length of the stalk of the trichome or by the thickness of the head of the trichome, because outdoor plants versus indoor on the exact same genetics, we've seen it that the outdoors have produced bigger trichome heads and the indoors have produced smaller, but doesn't mean the THC should be any different in it, right? Or would be any different. And we kind of do that in growing with lux meters. Like obviously the right way to get your light would be with a par meter, right? But with a lux meter, you're looking at the visible human light. But we can do that to, like what you said, make a trend in our garden to allow us to, okay, at this point it's at 35,000 lux. Well, I don't know what the par is, but at least in next grow, I can put it at 35,000 lux and it'll be exactly where I was growing now, right? To keep that in line. No, okay, that makes sense.
Absolutely. So I didn't actually, I completely forgot about those camera ones, those ones that just take a picture. You have the one that I looked at, it sends the picture to Israel, does some comparative analysis thing, and sends you the result back. I'm like, I don't think that's got any kind of relevancy. I thought you were talking the Gemicert or the orange
either way,
or whatever, right?
There's the purple ones. There's a couple different brands out there. DT Text or DN.
Okay, I haven't heard of that one.
There's a couple different ones, and there's just I actually got one sent to us called Plant Check. And it's an at-home chemical test. So you actually, you have to make a little like ISO little extraction thing, right? And then you have a couple different chemicals that you syringe in it, and then you give it a good little shake, like a roadside test, and then it tells you kind of like a pool pH test.
Yes.
This color is this THC, this color is this THC. Would those ones be a little bit more accurate than, say, a sensor tester?
I think those ones would have a little bit more accuracy than the picture one, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But the problem with those, not just for THT, but for any of the other, even your pool tests and all that, although pool, I guess, is a little bit different, but it matters what's, like if you're foliar spraying, for example, when that will mess up the pH and change how those chemical reactions are. So those strips are not consistent and can be messed up by what is specifically on your sample, on like the surface of your sample.
True. Very cool. Very cool.
But again, if you're consistently using that at your home, for example, then I definitely feel you could be trending. Very
cool. I like that term. Okay, I've got an important question here. This is the most important one probably of the day.
Okay.
In your opinion, is chicken bacon considered bacon?
No.
Why?
Because bacon, I thought, was always from a pig. So turkey bacon, for example, or chicken bacon is, you can't just call that bacon, right? You have to put that word, just kind of like, what do you call it? My wife's now putting it in her coffee and stuff. Oat milk, I think, or almond milk. That's not, I feel, in my opinion, I feel that milk should come from a mammary gland. Like, it could be from a cow, a woman, or, a goat or something, but not from an almond. That's almond juice, I almost feel.
So ketchup would be tomato smoothie.
Kind of, yeah, to that point, yeah. But I guess ketchup is more a kind of like Kleenex, right? I think ketchup is more a manufacturer name, isn't it? Right? Like I know Heinz or whatever, but
Heinz or French's?
I prefer French's. I used to prefer, except I don't know, not 2012 or whatever it was when Heinz moved out of Leamington. And then the rules are different in the States with the amount of tomato paste and all that kind of stuff. That's when Heinz went downhill, and then French came in or French's or whatever, and came in and took over that facility from the.
I heard that, yeah.
I can't remember that Italian family or something that owned it, and So now, obviously, I go out of my way to support Canadian-made anything, which is hard to find.
Yeah.
But where I can, I always try and support that. But when it comes to Heinz today versus French's today, French's taste better. And my kids like it, so.
Good answer. Maybe the wrong answer on the chicken bacon, but good answer on the
Why? What's your opinion on chicken bacon?
I love chicken bacon. I think
I've never tried it.
That was gonna be my next question. I love chicken bacon. I think it tastes exactly like bacon. And every time I mention having breakfast, they're always like saying, "It's not bacon. It's not bacon." I'm like, okay, fine, chicken style bacon or whatever. So
I've tried turkey bacon before, and I found it was really salty. But I've never even heard of chicken bacon till now. I thought you were kind of making it up.
no, I'm literally like the only one who knows about it. Go to the grocery store right beside the bacon
Yeah.
aisle, get the chicken bacon, cook it up one time, eat
All
it,
right.
and then
If it's there, I'll definitely do that. I don't even think I've seen it though.
okay. That's funny. Ever since we started the interviews, I've asked every single person that question.
And what's the majority of their responses?
No one knows what it is, and I think I'm
Okay.
the only. It's like only available where I live or something. I guess. I don't know. It's
What
literally
area do you live in Ontario?
just 30 minutes outside of Toronto.
Oh, okay. All right.
Towards Oshawa area.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Durham region then.
Exactly, the Durham region. Last question about the organics here is I keep hearing it's hard to become approved by Health Canada for an indoor fully organics grow. Is this something you've heard?
I think that's a little bit, I think there's some confusion in that statement. What I mean by that is Health Canada requires you to submit your first two harvests, right? Your first two harvest COAs. So I think what people are saying is that they think that organic may fail on microbial testing. And the reason behind that is traditional microbial testing is done with pour plates and petri dish type plates, right? Where you pour out, and then you look for what grows and you count the colony forming units. Now, cannabis flower is a very complicated matrix. There is a ton of stuff going on. It's actually a dirty matrix when it comes to analytical testing. Those plates were designed for people testing, sterile pharmaceuticals where nothing is supposed to be growing. It's supposed to be a sterile, clean thing. We don't use that here. That's old school microbial testing. We use qPCR here, which is kind of got a little bit more mainstream due to COVID PCR tests, right? So we use qPCR testing here.
Yep.
It's looking for, at the molecular level, for known pathogen DNA.
Okay.
When it first came out, and I think around like 2018, when some cannabis labs started using that in California, there was issues with it amplifying the dead DNA. So anything that wasn't living, it was still counting to that, which when you put it on a plate to see if it grows, it's not going to grow because it's dead. However, there's been processes that have come up, a product we use called Grim Reefer, for example, and that cleans up the dead DNA before your analysis. So anything that is non-living, it's removed from the sample, from the extraction, and then we only look to amplify any live DNA if there is any. The whole point about that when it comes to organic though is cannabis is not a sterile product. It's great. It's got a great natural microbiome on it. When you look at, say, your outdoor grow, right, and mycelium and all this trichodermia, all this kind of stuff, right, that is helping protect the plant and is healthy for that plant and is not harmful for humans, is going to grow on a plate. And then they're going to count that and you're going to fail. Where we're only looking for the known pathogen DNAs. We don't care about stuff that is non-harmful to humans.
Yeah.
And it's not us who decides what was harmful or not, right? But so organic, I highly recommend that anyone who's organic, and we've worked with even like Dragonfly, Earth Medicine, those, and we're trying to do a little project with them, for example. And there's plenty of other licensed producers who are growing in those traditional methods with great success and no issue when it comes to cannabis microbial testing when using qPCR. We're not the only lab in Canada that uses it, but there's less than a handful that do.
Okay, so some of them still use the traditional methods where they could decline because
95% of them do.
Okay, because a lot of organics, you might be using, say, labs, for an example, spraying labs and bacteria on your plant, right? And you're obviously increasing the microbe content on your plant through organics. Or say some of the top dresses, they were always worried that it has higher metal counts and it might transfer over into the COAs and the testing and this and that.
So I'll talk about heavy metals in a second, because that's another good point that you bring up when it comes to soil and organic,
Okay.
especially with cannabis being a hyper accumulator. But back to the microbial thing, the other thing, the most dangerous thing that when it comes to microbials that we can find is aspergillus. Aspergillus like flava, niger, and two other ones I don't even remember the exact species.
Mhm.
Those can be easily detected by qPCR. With plating being selective, they may not grow on a plate. You may
Mm,
miss aspergillus, which is
okay.
the most dangerous thing for, especially for someone who's immunocompromised, to then consume that flower.
Wow.
So much so that Robin Marles has been quoted in an article in last April, I think it was, saying that Health Canada is looking at making qPCR the standard for microbial testing in
Well, it
Canada.
should be if it seems like if things are passing through. Like we don't want to add stigmas on cannabis. We want to end all the stigmas to make sure that cannabis is equally looked at as coffee is. No one frowns upon coffee when you grab a coffee in your hand. No one frowns upon even with a smoke in your hand nowadays, realistically, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then the other point on heavy metals. So Health Canada did the same thing. Choose one of the 8 pharmacopoeias, pick one of those. So the most common one that people use is USP 232, which has got to do with heavy metal impurities. And then you can look at an inhalation on this spreadsheet on a table, I should say. There's an inhalation column, as in if you're using this product for inhalation, follow these numbers.
Mm-hmm.
They have to test for arsenic, cadmium, lead, and mercury. Now, that column uses the regulation, that pharmacopoeia uses a calculation. And in that calculation, it's based on the PDE, the personal daily exposure. In the table, which is just an example of using the calculation, the table is based on 10 grams a day personal daily exposure. The heaviest smokers don't often, I want to say, consume 10 grams in a
A
day.
day, no.
There may be some, but even Health Canada continues to put out every year a survey, or they have, I think, 3 years now. And the first year, an average daily consumer in Canada consumes 0.9 grams of flower per day. And then the last,
0.9? That's actually more than
yes,
I thought still.
yeah, and then the last 2 years, it's been 1.1.
Okay.
So based on that, they're using the number on 10 grams a day and a consumption assumption, lower that to even say 5 grams a day, right? And that now doubles the limit.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is kind of silly that they haven't provided much direction on that. Cannabis being a hyperaccumulator, it will pick up any kind of trace elements like that in the soil, for example. Obviously nothing extreme, but if you had that limit, say, of 1 ppm for arsenic, and if you went by the limit on 10 grams a day, it's like 0.2,
Mm-hmm.
where we've had some organic that comes in at like 0.3, 0.4 maybe. Why would that fail, right? Because and they base that on the 10 grams a day thing. So now
Mm.
they've smartened up a little bit, and they're like, okay, fine, we're going to base it on 5 grams a day. Now the limit is like 0.6, for example. I think, don't quote me
Okay.
on that. And then there's no issue, and it's still safe unless you're consuming more than 5 grams a day of that specific flower, right?
Yeah.
But again, this is where Health Canada needs to go. This is the list. This is the limits, but they're leaving it open. So it's unfortunate, and hopefully they do set that limit, set that PDE, set whatever numbers and other elements. If you want to export to Israel, for example, they got to test also. I think it's nickel, and I believe one other heavy metal that Health Canada does not request. So
Okay.
there is some other ones too that may be, a beneficial to be looking for as well.
That's it's crazy to me how like you were saying right at the beginning, like getting a standard testing, it would be ideal here in the industry, something where everyone, like every flower that goes into the market, you're looking at, okay, it's at 21% because it's went through this standard testing. Same with this flower went through this testing. It all has the same, so people can't hide things through the door or whatever like that. And it is interesting, like in the states, for an example, is that every state has their own, it seems like, law on what can pass for the microbe levels in this and that. Here in Canada, it seems like it's a whole, right? Everything, all the provinces are on the same kind of level of, you can have this many microbes counts or whatever per, what is it, per culture dish or whatever?
Colony forming units per
Thank you.
gram, CFU per slash G is usually how you see it on the COA. Yeah, the province don't regulate that. It's federally, so that's
Okay.
Health Canada that regulates that.
Okay.
For them to be allowed to sell either medically or B2B or to a provincial regulator like OCS, for example.
Yeah.
Now, OCS, for example, may set above and beyond what Health Canada does, but as far as I know, from what I know, I don't think any provincial body has set anything else than what Health Canada has.
Okay. Okay. Because I have noticed a couple different COA numbers, but I think it was based on some products were tested for the European market, and then some of them have COAs for the American standards, right? So they'd be a little bit different then.
Yeah, for sure. The limits, depending on what you're looking at when it comes to microbials, for example, European has a much higher limit, but they need a much larger sample size, where USP, the United States Pharmacopoeia, has a lower limit.
Okay.
Very so cool. And then irradiation is a whole nother thing too.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple people about that, and I guess there's I don't know too much about it, but they were saying there's 3 different forms of it, and it kind of goes from the best, obviously, to the worst case scenarios, and I guess most of them are using the least amount of radiation to get it passed through. So it's not as bad as a lot of the marketing is saying it is, because it's not nearly as much radiation but the term radiation, I guess, scares everyone.
Yeah, I don't know about that. The reason I say that is because they're using, when they put it through irradiation, they're just using the same thing they use for, I think it's health products or something like that is the word that they use, or health devices, something like that.
Okay.
And there's no study done on the effects of cannabis being irradiated and then smoking, as in burning it.
Oh, interesting.
So
but they still have it passed that you can still do it.
Well, they're not asking for, they're not even asking you to disclose if it's been irradiated or remediated, I should say, in any, because people do irradiation, they do e-beaming, they do ozone treatment, which is organic and like a gentle organic touch.
Yeah.
Hydrogen peroxide, even UV.
Yeah.
There's multiple forms of remediation that are allowed to be used in Canada.
Like I definitely use, I have a UVC light that I put in my flower room after every single grow, and I turned it on for around 45 minutes in different sections. So I 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, go around. And again, I use hydrogen peroxide, obviously. But I have heard of people who are working in the industry where their bosses have told them, saying, this product has been irradiated, and if you see any mold, if you see any WPM, don't worry about it. Keep packing. It's and I've seen that in the industry here, and because I guess it's already passed through testing. I guess they're saying, it's already passed, so it's fine to sell.
Well, that's where I think also Health Canada needs and this is something I'll be putting in that article, but they need to be a little bit more strict on that. So when you're saying if they see something because it's been irradiated, keep in mind some of these lots are like 200 kilograms, for example, right? From one harvest, and then they send in 40, 50 grams of that to get tested. That's not very representative, in my opinion, of 200 kilograms.
Yeah.
So there needs to be more regulations around batch sizing. Batch sizing, there is no limit here in Canada. The limit is decided on the license holder. Look at the states. California has the largest limit at 50 pounds. Nevada has the smallest at 3 pounds. So I think there needs to be regulations around the batch sizing by Health Canada. And then with that, after that is decided, then representative sampling and testing. So even in California, they have certain ways that they have to do their their sampling.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of funny business happening in the California industry because they also have the lab go to the the license holder to pick up the sample, where we don't hear that sampling is done by the license holder or you, for example. Like we don't need anyone, anyone can test with us. They don't need a license or anything.
Which is,
so
would be weird how you have it blocked behind a license. Like anybody, if you're in the legacy legal home grower, should be able to test their product.
Yep. And we do that here. But there's a lot of labs that refuse if you don't have a license.
Yeah.
But we'll test for anybody and everyone as long as you're here in Canada and above 19, I should say, or 18 or whatever in your province. So with regards to that, I think that they need to definitely change some of that. They need to change a bunch of stuff: packaging, edible dosage limits, some of the stuff I mentioned with regards to testing. There's definitely a few things like, okay, you made the regs back then. You thought you did your best. Great. It's been 3 years or however long. Now let's pivot and adjust.
Yeah, interesting. I know you mentioned it earlier, but it was just mentioned in the chat. Is it safe to smoke? So say like if a flower went through testing, and I know you said it only tests small batches of it, this and that, but it went through testing and it passed, and then you were to consume it and you were to find, say, a spore in the middle of it, but you find it in your last gram of the ounce that you just bought. Should we now be worried that everything that we just consumed and that has the spores in it, if that last gram?
I wouldn't be worried as long as you're feeling fine and throw out that last gram or contact the producer or whoever sold it to you, right? Yep. But yeah, I mean, if you're feeling fine and you went through what you thought was clean looking weed until you got to that last little nug and you saw something there, I think you're probably okay. In my past, certainly in my younger days, I'm sure I've consumed some moldy weed, unknowingly, and certainly if I did know, I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it. I don't think it's probably a good idea, but also it's fairly harmless, unless it's maybe aspergillus or something, or you're immunocompromised, and some people are sensitive to it.
Yep. Like we get it now where people are consuming concentrates and they might get itchy off of it, or they go in, they touch it. Yeah, they go in and they touch their plants and they get itchy off of it. I've noticed some just by being live the last 3 years. I've noticed some people are sensitive from, if they're consuming it in with combustion, they don't get it, but as soon as they consume it through concentrate, they start to get itchy and stuff. So then we start to think, well, maybe it's higher terp percentages and stuff. And this was actually kind of where my last little questions were going here, was that, is there any testing out there doing, like any testing out there, or any companies out there, labs that are testing for the high terp percentage in long term on humans? Because like we've always smoked flower over the last 100 years, right, with not caring about the terps, right, not caring about that we had 15, 30, 20, 25% in these concentrates. And now we're getting to the point where we're at 15, 20% concentrates and people are consuming them daily. Do you think that's going to have any negative effect over?
That's a tough one. I don't know of anyone that's doing any studies on that. We did get our sensory R&D license. However, Health Canada said no, was very specific on no human trials, like taking blood or urine or something like that, right?
Yep.
So we haven't done anything like that. I don't know if there is any labs or anyone across the world that is doing something like that. Hopefully they are. I do definitely want to say that fresh frozen, which is the terpene profile is completely different than when it's dried. There has been more sensitivities I've heard about. People washing. I saw MTS Farms washing last night. He was wearing a mask, right?
Yeah,
Full respirator.
A lot of people are wearing masks now and they're washing certain strains. Yeah. I'm noticing. Yeah, people are getting itchier, or they're not able to consume the strains after. And I'm just starting to think: is it the higher terpene percentages? Is it certain terps that are causing this? Some people, and obviously, is there people who are maybe allergic to certain? Because cannabis isn't the only plant that has these certain terp profiles. There's other plants that have them too, right? And it just interests me because we've done a lot of testing on the consumption of cannabis, but we really haven't. There's not lots of tests out there for the consumption what we're doing now. Like 10 years ago, we
Yeah.
weren't smoking 35 and 100% THC with, like I said, 20% terps, right?
Yeah, some people even have allergies to like mangoes, for example, which we
Yep.
all know are high in myrcene.
Yep.
So is there, I wonder if someone who's allergic to mangoes, if they went into a fresh rosin washing room with
Mm.
a myrcene forward strain,
Yeah.
I wonder if that has got, I have no idea. I just thought
Yeah.
about it
No.
as we're
Yeah.
talking now,
No.
right?
I
But
wonder if that would cause. That would be. It's interesting because obviously, I see different conversations every day. I'm reading different things, different people's experiences from around the world, right? And it's cool when I can sit here with my wife after the stream and I'm sitting there thinking, this is what was mentioned today. Do you think this is like crazy of me thinking like this or what? Like, should we be going this way? Should we be looking this way? I don't know, right? Because I think about the States right now, and what really bothers me in the States is that just legalize cannabis. Stop coming out with these HHCs and these Delta 8s and these Delta 10s.
oh
Like,
yeah,
they're just, if you don't legalize Delta 9 THC and CBD just everywhere and allow people to freely use it, then they're going to try and create these synthetic styles. And it just because they're using one bit of cannabis and they're synthetically creating it into their own cannabinoid and stuff. And it's just crazy to me.
yeah. My personal preference is dried.
Yeah.
Even making hash out of dried, or smoking, obviously dried. But
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan personally on fresh frozen.
Yep.
I know there's a ton of people out there, and there's that swear by fresh frozen compared to dried,
Yep.
right? And to each their own. That's subjective. So that's great. But me personally, I prefer a cured flower and then make a hash out of that.
Yep. A lot of the guys.
Actually, I should say a dried flower. I don't spend any time curing it if I'm going to make hash out of it. As soon as
Yeah.
it's nice, cold, slow, dry is done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll cure it if I'm smoking the flower, but
Yeah.
if I'm making hash out of it, right away, because you're losing terps
Yeah.
every day from then on. So
Totally.
I put that right in the wash,
Yeah. 100%.
and then I like to age the hash.
Totally. Totally. All right. I got one last question here. Man,
Sure.
this has been a ton of info. I know I know everyone who's going to be watching this either on Twitch or the YouTube after are going to be hitting face of info, just loads of info. But the last question I have here is what style of growing method do you use and what strains are you growing currently?
So I personally use organic soil is what I prefer to grow in. I started off growing in organic soil just because, like my grandma, my mom always been gardening, right? Since I basically could walk, I've been gardening, obviously not weed, but flowers, herbs, fruits, vegetables, that kind of stuff, right? So I was always doing that in soil. And then once I got into growing cannabis, 23 years ago, I started in soil. And then, the larger, more commercial grows back then where I'd always use hydroponic, flood and drain type of stuff,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
then got into a little aeroponic, but which was great for yield. But unfortunately, that is a lot more sensitive to any mistakes, any
Yeah.
changes in environment, also breakdowns, right? A pump, whatever. So, and then non-commercial now, which I'm just growing personally, is organic soil. I know a lot of people like to use the word living soil, but I don't know what organic soil would not be considered living. So I just personally say organic soil.
Yeah.
And then I do my best to, I do stuff like, my soil is kind of on an angle. I bury stuff at the top, like fish guts and,
Oh, cool.
all that kind of stuff, kind of compost it, put cover over it, all that kind of stuff, right? That's my preferred method. I find to get the best profile, the best flavor,
Yeah.
the best smell. Back in the day when there was no access to testing, the way that even a broker, for example, would be looking at a hockey bag, and the thing they do is look at it, touch it, smell it.
Yep.
If they got a chance, sure, burn some, smoke
Totally.
some, whatever, right? But it was all about that, and that's the terps, that's the flavor, the flavonoid, whatever it is. not looking at the total THC, which is a big thing right now. I think that a lot of people need to get over when it comes to whether it's brokers, whether it's OCS, and then the consumers. Total THC does not mean potency.
Yeah.
Right. There is many other factors. Sure, THC is one of the like 5 factors or whatever, but also the most important one and the most unique one is your own endocannabinoid system. Everyone's going to react differently.
Totally.
So I think you got to try
Yep.
certain strains that you may prefer over others, certain producers you may prefer over others, and certain flavor profiles you may prefer over others as well, or terp profiles.
Yeah.
But total THC is, should not be the deciding factor, I don't think.
Amen on that one, 100%. I've been pushing that for the last 3 years. I've been pushing, saying like, who cares about who cares about the overall yield? Who cares about the overall THC if it's 15% or if it's 35%? If you're smoking it and it's giving exactly what you want, then it's perfect. It's the dank mids, as we call it, as we say here, the dank mids. Dank mids in chat.
Yeah. So I think one of the things too that we're working on is high north education. So we're going to be going to dispensaries and whether it's webinar,
yep.
Podcasts like this type of thing, and helping dispel the myth about all kinds of stuff with regards to testing and total THC equals potency,
yep.
which is not true. Right. And certain things like that. And we'll be coming at that from a third party analytical lab point of view, where we're not trying to sell you, total THC doesn't matter and buy my product here.
Yeah.
Right. We're not. We're just trying to help the community, help the industry, and provide some education from that third party lab point of view.
Exactly. No, I appreciate that, because I know that is definitely limiting right now in the industry. Is you go in, it's either they don't know, they just know how to do it, but they don't know the reasons behind it. They don't know why it needs to be that way. And I think the education of quality, safe cannabis needs to be pushed more. Not just how to grow cannabis. It's the quality, the safety behind it. The COAs being able, that home users are able to have access to these, to be able to testers. Like, we don't want someone who is growing their plant outside to harvest it and they think, oh, all this white WPM is just trichomes, right? Like, because they don't know better, right? They don't know. Or it would be awesome. Like, this is obviously dreaming, but it would be awesome to get to the point where you go into Home Depot right now and right at the cash out, they've got the water testing things. I don't know if you've seen those, free water testing, right?
Yep.
It would be awesome if you go into a hydroponic store or dispensary and they have like $50 kits or whatever, right on the wall. You grab them and you can literally test the flower that you bought right there, put it in there, send it out, or however it works, right? Like,
yeah, for sure. And I don't know how it specifically how it works with your community and stuff here, but I'd be happy to offer, if you, with some of your samples and someone that, I don't know how you can choose, if there's some contest or something or random,
yeah.
to as long as they're in Canada, of course, to send in a sample and we'll do some testing for it. Yeah.
So I can do a giveaway for a Canadian to be able to send in some
flower. Unfortunately, you have to be, or whatever, cannabis product.
Okay. And how much does it have to be?
Well, it depends on the product.
Okay.
Right. So I guess whenever you figure out who wins it, then see what they want, whether it's flower, hash, oil, whatever, concentrate.
Okay.
And then I can go over the sample sizing.
It's awesome.
And how to submit it and stuff like that.
Yo, guys, can we get some friggin' love in the chat for that? No, I'll message you on Instagram about that, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
This was a ton of fun, man. This exactly I said, probably the most laid back interview you've ever had. Try to make it just feel like a conversation, just keeps going. It's a little weird at the beginning because there is obviously a live chat and people are watching. It's not like
I see it.
It's not like a video where it can be edited, this and that, which I kind of like about that. This is my day-to-day life for the last 3 years, so
awesome.
But I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you guys chilling.
Thank you for having me. It's great.
if you want to shout out any of your Instagram or any of your websites or anything before I let you go.
Yeah, highnorth.com. I see Tay Howie has posted the Instagram High North Labs,
Yeah.
our Instagram there. I think our Twitter is High North. John does our Twitter. I do the Instagram.
Okay.
And John does the LinkedIn as well. I just stick to the Instagram.
All right, the Instagram's
he,
cool.
Yeah, he likes to do the other ones, and I do the Instagram, so it's perfect. But yeah, any of that stuff, please give us a follow or a shout out or anything like that, and reach out if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feedback.
Awesome.
And looking forward to hearing who wins the contest as well. Whenever you get a chance to do it.
Totally. I'll definitely message you about that.
Sure.
Last thing I just want to ask you, because I always know there's people looking, and there's lots of Canadian viewers here. Are you guys ever hiring any careers?
Absolutely. We're growing very quickly. We're hiring at a rapid pace. We do put some ads out there on Indeed.com, I think,
Yep.
and LinkedIn.
Awesome.
But if anyone wants to reach out, you can reach out to rick@highnorth.com or on the Instagram, on the LinkedIn, on Twitter, on the website. I think there's like a
careers or something. Yeah.
I don't think we have careers on our website, but that's a good point. Maybe we should add that.
That's funny. I'm just throwing out things.
No, it's great. I mean, one of my friends, Steve Solvent List, for example, his fiance, when she graduated, he's like, hey, my fiance may be looking for a lab position because that's what she was going to school in. Turned out, yeah, awesome. And she's been with us for, I want to say, a year. She's awesome. So yeah, we definitely would hire from within the community and stuff. Obviously, scientists have to have a little bit of specialized or specific, I should say, education. But then we do have other positions from IT to finance to client care, looking for bilingual client care even right now, and quality assurance, quality control. So yeah, we're
awesome.
always looking.
Awesome. Well, it was nice to meet you, and we're definitely going to continue to talk. Now that you're part of the Discord, if you are down to share things and stuff, you do have the verified role, so you can check out all our channels. It's kind of like a form, so you can post your setup or whatever, post different strains. Awesome. It's always a lot of fun. Like I said, we are live 24/7 here on Twitch. So if you're ever on Twitch, and I don't know if you have the chat up there. If you are logged in, you can say hi down at the bottom. I don't know if you are logged in or not.
Yeah, it made me create an account because I never had an account.
There you go, everyone. There he is. Yeah. Now everyone say hi in the chat.
Yeah. Well, no, I didn't have. I've never been on Twitch, to be honest, and I love playing video games. I used to play them way back in the day, like Diablo, Age of Empires, Ultimate Online. Duke Nukem Online. I'm talking in like 1995, playing Duke Nukem Online and building like your own levels and stuff like that, and then connecting modem to modem with a buddy and playing
doing LAN parties and everything.
Yeah, but then had kids 7 years ago and building up High North as well, so it's just kind of consumed the majority of my time. But I did just recently get a gaming PC. I was talking to Cody about it.
Talking to who? Cody
Paulson. Yeah. And so I'm hopefully going to get back into something. He recommended the one game that he mentioned on your interview. I can't remember the name of it.
Valorant.
Yeah, that one. He recommended that one. So I'm gonna have to check that one out.
With it, we'll have to do a stream sometime. Cody, you and me, all on Valorant. We can do a cannabis little team on Valorant. Awesome. That sounds fun.
I got the gaming mouse, the thing that even has like weights in the bottom.
I got the same one here.
Oh, do you? Yeah. Actually, that's the exact same one I got.
I told you. We're gamers here too. That's Logitech. We're gamers here too.
Yeah. That's awesome. I was trying to show my wife, look, at this thing's got weights, but she was not impressed. So.
That's awesome. Well, I'll let you go, man. Happy Thursday. Welcome to the family. Thanks a lot for the information.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for having me. It was great. I'm glad to share and help hopefully educate a little bit, but and spread the good word about testing and quality cannabis.
All right. Last thing you just got to say is type R in chat, and then I'm going to leave.
Type R in chat.
Perfect.
Thanks a lot, man.
Have a great day, man. Later.
You too. Cheers. Bye.